Before you accuse her of anything, before you check her phone, before you let your mind spiral into paranoia, there are subtle psychological shifts that happen in a woman's mind weeks or even months before infidelity actually occurs. And if you can recognize these patterns early, you might be able to save your relationship before it's too late. Or at the very least, you'll know exactly where you stand. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most requested and uncomfortable topics in relationship psychology: the early warning signs that appear before a woman becomes unfaithful. And I want to be crystal clear from the start. This isn't about promoting paranoia or turning you into a detective in your own relationship. This is about understanding human psychology, recognizing patterns, and giving you the knowledge to either address issues in your relationship or make informed decisions about your future. Like, if this kind of honest, no nonsense relationship content is what you're looking for, go ahead and hit that like button right now and make sure you're subscribed with notifications turned on, because we're going to be exploring the deeper aspects of female psychology that most people are too afraid to talk about openly. Now, let's talk about something important before we get into the signs themselves. Infidelity doesn't usually happen overnight. It's not typically a spontaneous decision made in a moment of weakness, although that can happen. More often, there's a psychological journey that happens first, a series of small disconnections, unmet needs, and emotional shifts that create the conditions where infidelity becomes possible. Understanding this journey is key to recognizing the signs early. The first thing you need to understand is that when a woman begins to emotionally detach from a relationship, it's often because she's already tried to address issues and felt unheard or unseen. This is crucial. Women typically don't just wake up one day and decide to cheat. There's usually a period where she's tried to communicate her needs, her dissatisfaction, or her concerns, and those attempts have been dismissed, minimized, or ignored. This creates what psychologists call emotional abandonment, and it's the foundation upon which most female infidelity is built. So let's get into the 5 early signs. And remember, seeing one of these signs doesn't automatically mean she's going to cheat. But if you're noticing multiple signs simultaneously, it's time to have a serious conversation about the state of your relationship. Sign number 1: she stops arguing with you about the things that used to matter to her. Now, on the surface, this might seem like a good thing: less conflict, less drama, more peace in the relationship. But here's what's really happening psychologically. When a woman stops fighting for the relationship, stops bringing up issues that bother her, stops trying to change things that aren't working, it's not because those issues have been resolved. It's because she's given up on the idea that things will change. This is what relationship experts call the calm before the storm. She's moved from anger and frustration to something far more dangerous: apathy. And apathy is the real relationship killer. When she cared, she argued. She expressed her needs. She fought to make things better. But when she stops caring, she stops fighting. She becomes agreeable, non confrontational, almost eerily peaceful. And this peace isn't harmony, it's resignation. Here's what this looks like in real life: you leave your dirty dishes in the sink, something that used to trigger an argument. She says nothing. You forget an important date or commitment. She just smiles and says it's fine. You make decisions without consulting her. She doesn't challenge you. Your sex life has diminished to almost nothing. She doesn't bring it up. To you, it might feel like she's finally chilled out, finally stopped nagging. But what's actually happening is she's emotionally checking out of the relationship. She's stopped investing her emotional energy into trying to fix things because she's redirecting that energy elsewhere. Psychologically, this is a form of emotional self preservation. She's protecting herself from further disappointment by lowering her expectations to zero. And when someone has zero expectations from a relationship, they're not invested in maintaining it. This creates the perfect psychological conditions for her to become receptive to attention from someone else, someone who seems to hear her, see her, and value her opinions. Someone who, in her mind, is giving her what you're no longer providing. Sign number 2: her phone habits change dramatically. Now, I know what you're thinking. Phone changes are the most obvious sign, and yes, they are. But it's not just about her being secretive with her phone. It's about the specific patterns of change you need to watch for. A woman who's beginning to emotionally stray doesn't just suddenly start hiding her phone. The changes are more nuanced than that. Here's what actually happens. First, you'll notice she's on her phone more often, but in a different way. She's not just scrolling through social media mindlessly while sitting next to you on the couch. She's actively engaged with her phone, typing messages, smiling at the screen, completely absorbed in whatever conversation she's having. When you ask who she's talking to, the answer is usually vague. A friend from work, someone from her workout class, an old friend she reconnected with. And technically, these answers might even be true. But the energy she's putting into these conversations is energy that used to be directed at you. Second, her phone is suddenly always on silent or face down. Before, notifications would pop up and she wouldn't care if you saw them. Now her phone is constantly flipped over, and when a message comes through, she's quick to grab it before you can see who it's from. This isn't necessarily because she's having an affair yet. It's because she's having conversations she knows would make you uncomfortable. Conversations that are crossing emotional boundaries, even if they haven't crossed physical ones yet. Third, and this is the big one, she's protective of her phone in a way she never was before. She takes it to the bathroom, she keeps it in her pocket instead of leaving it on the counter. If you casually pick it up to hand it to her or check the time, she reacts with disproportionate concern. This isn't about privacy in a healthy sense. This is about concealment. And concealment always indicates that something is happening she doesn't want you to know about. From a psychological perspective, this behavior indicates what's called compartmentalization. She's creating separate spaces in her life where you don't have access. She's building walls instead of bridges. And when someone is compartmentalizing their life away from their partner, they're creating the space for someone else to enter. Sign number 3. She suddenly becomes very concerned with her appearance, but not for you. This is one of the most telling signs because it involves a shift in motivation. When a woman starts putting significantly more effort into her appearance, working out more, updating her wardrobe, experimenting with makeup or hairstyles, but this increased effort isn't translating into any increased intimacy or attention toward you, that's a red flag. Here's the key distinction. If she's getting dolled up and then wanting to spend time with you, wanting to be intimate with you, wanting to feel desired by you, that's healthy. That's her investing in herself and in your relationship. But if she's putting in all this effort and then showing zero interest in whether you notice or care, or if the effort seems to coincide with specific events, work functions, nights out with friends, or unexplained errands, then her motivation is coming from somewhere else. Women are motivated by attention and validation. That's not a criticism, it's human nature. We all are. And when a woman is getting dressed up, it's because on some level she wants to be seen and appreciated. If that desire isn't directed toward her partner, it's being directed somewhere else. She's making herself attractive for someone. And if it's not you, you need to figure out who it is. Psychologically, this behavior is often a precursor to what researchers call the justification phase. She's beginning to build a narrative in her mind where she's not being appreciated or desired by you, which justifies her seeking that appreciation and desire elsewhere. She's started to see herself as available again, even if she hasn't acted on it yet. She's shopping herself, mentally and emotionally, testing the market to see what kind of attention she can attract. The crucial element here is the disconnect between her increased self investment and her decreased investment in your relationship. If those two things are happening simultaneously, elevated attention to appearance plus reduced intimacy or connection with you, that's a significant warning sign. Sign number 4, she becomes secretive about her schedule and whereabouts. This goes beyond just having a busy life or needing personal space. We all need time to ourselves. We all have commitments and activities outside our relationships. That's healthy. But there's a difference between having a life and being secretive about that life. A woman who's beginning to create space for infidelity will start to have an increasing number of vague plans. She's going out, but the details are fuzzy. She has to work late, but she's evasive about exactly what she's working on. She's meeting a friend, but she's vague about which friend or where they're going. She signs up for new activities, a workout class, a hobby group, volunteering, but she downplays your involvement or discourages you from participating. Here's what's happening psychologically. She's not necessarily meeting someone specific yet, but she's creating the conditions where she could. She's establishing patterns of being unavailable, unaccounted for, and independent from you. She's building plausible deniability into her schedule. And this serves two purposes. First, it gives her the freedom to explore connections with other people without having to explain herself. Second, it normalizes her absence so that when she does start seeing someone, the change in her behavior is less noticeable because she's already been distant for a while. Pay attention to how she responds when you ask about her plans or activities. A woman who's operating in good faith will be open, forthcoming, and often enthusiastic about sharing details of her day or her activities. A woman who's creating space for something else will be defensive, dismissive, or accusatory when you ask questions. She'll flip the script and make you feel like you're being controlling or jealous for simply wanting to know what's going on in her life. This defensiveness is actually a psychological defense mechanism called projection. She's feeling guilty about the emotional boundaries she's crossing, so she projects that guilt onto you by making you the bad guy for asking reasonable questions. If simple questions about her day are consistently met with hostility or accusations that you're being possessive, that's not normal relationship dynamics. That's someone who's hiding something and resenting being held accountable. Sign number 5, and this is perhaps the most important one. She stops including you in her future plans and dreams. This is subtle but devastating. When a woman sees a future with you, she naturally includes you in that future. She talks about trips you'll take together. She makes plans for holidays months away. She discusses goals, dreams, and aspirations that involve both of you. She says we and us, not I and me. But when a woman is emotionally checking out, her language shifts. She starts talking about what she wants to do, where she wants to go, what she's thinking about for her future, and you're noticeably absent from these visions. She's not talking about the vacation you'll take together next summer. She's talking about places she wants to visit. She's not discussing the home you'll buy or the life you'll build. She's talking about her goals and her plans. This shift in language from we to I is one of the most reliable indicators that someone is mentally leaving a relationship. It's called linguistic distancing, and it happens unconsciously when someone is emotionally detaching. They start to see their life as separate from their partner's life. They start to imagine a future that doesn't include that person. And once a woman stops seeing you in her future, she's already mentally moved on, even if she hasn't physically left yet. What makes this particularly significant is that it often happens before any actual infidelity occurs. It's the foundation that makes infidelity possible. Because once she's reimagined her life without you, once she's stopped investing in a shared future, she's psychologically available to someone else. She's already taken the first step of seeing herself as a single person who just happens to be in a relationship, rather than as part of a committed partnership. Here's the uncomfortable truth about all 5 of these signs. By the time they're all present, by the time you're noticing multiple patterns simultaneously, the relationship is in serious danger. Not necessarily beyond repair, but in a place where immediate and significant action is required. And this is where most men make a critical mistake. They either ignore the signs and hope things will get better on their own, or they become accusatory and paranoid, pushing her further away. Neither approach works. Ignoring the signs doesn't make them go away. It just gives the problems more time to grow. And accusing her without evidence or becoming controlling doesn't address the underlying issues that created these patterns in the first place. It just confirms in her mind that you're not the person she wants to be with. So, what should you do if you're recognizing these signs in your relationship? First, and this is crucial, get honest with yourself about your role in creating this situation. I know that's hard to hear. I know it's easier to make her the bad guy. But the reality is that relationships don't fall apart in a vacuum. If she's emotionally disconnecting, there are reasons. Maybe you've been taking her for granted. Maybe you've stopped putting in effort. Maybe you've been so focused on work, friends, hobbies, or other priorities that she's felt neglected. Maybe you've dismissed her concerns or needs when she's tried to communicate them. This doesn't excuse infidelity if it happens. Nothing justifies breaking trust and commitment. But if you want to actually save the relationship, if you want to address these warning signs before they become reality, you have to be willing to look at the full picture, including your own behavior. Second, create space for an honest conversation. Not an accusation, not an interrogation. A real, vulnerable conversation about the state of your relationship. Tell her you've noticed she seems distant. Tell her you feel like there's a disconnect between you. Tell her you want to understand what she needs and what's not working for her. And then, this is the hard part, actually listen to what she says without getting defensive. Most relationships that end in infidelity had multiple opportunities to be saved, multiple moments where honest communication could have changed the trajectory. But those opportunities were missed because one or both people weren't willing to be vulnerable, to admit fault, to make real changes. Don't let pride or ego cost you a relationship that could be saved. Third, recognize that some relationships aren't meant to be saved. If you're doing everything right, if you're communicating, investing, showing up, meeting her needs, and she's still exhibiting these warning signs, it might be time to accept that she's made her choice. You can't force someone to choose you. You can't love someone into staying who's already mentally left. And trying to hold on to someone who doesn't want to be held is just prolonging your own suffering. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself is to recognize when someone is no longer committed to the relationship and make the difficult decision to walk away with your dignity intact. That's not giving up. That's having enough self respect to refuse to be someone's backup plan while they explore other options. Here's what I want you to take away from this video. These signs aren't about turning you into a paranoid partner who's constantly looking for problems. They're about giving you the awareness to recognize when a relationship is in trouble before it reaches the point of no return. They're about empowering you to have difficult conversations early rather than being blindsided later. And they're about helping you understand female psychology at a deeper level so you can build stronger, more connected relationships in the future, whether that's with your current partner or with someone new. The uncomfortable truth about infidelity is that it's rarely about sex. It's about emotional disconnection. It's about unmet needs. It's about someone feeling unseen, unheard, or unvalued. And while that doesn't excuse the betrayal of cheating, understanding the psychology behind it can help you prevent it in your own relationships. If this video opened your eyes to some patterns you've been ignoring or helped you understand relationship dynamics at a deeper level, do me a favor and hit that like button right now. It helps this content reach more people who need to hear it. Drop a comment below and let me know if you've experienced any of these signs in your own relationships and how you handled it. Your story might help someone else who's going through the same thing. And if you found value in this honest, psychologically informed approach to relationships, make sure you're subscribed to the channel with notifications turned on. We're going to continue exploring the uncomfortable truths about attraction, relationships, and human psychology that most people are too afraid to discuss openly. If you want to support the channel and help us create more content like this, you can use the super thanks button below this video. Every contribution helps us continue providing this kind of in-depth, no-nonsense relationship advice. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Share it with a friend who's struggling in their relationship. Share it with someone who's been ignoring warning signs. Sometimes the most valuable thing we can do for people we care about is give them information that helps them make better decisions about their relationships and their lives. Remember, knowledge is power, but only if you act on it. Don't just watch this video and go back to ignoring the signs. If you're seeing these patterns in your relationship, do something about it. Have the conversation. Make the changes or make the decision to move on, but don't stay stuck in a situation where you're being taken for granted or slowly replaced. Your relationship deserves honesty. Your partner deserves honesty. And you deserve to be with someone who's fully committed to building a life with you, not someone who's keeping you around while they explore other options. Until next time, stay aware, stay honest with yourself, and never settle for being someone's second choice.